Well, welcome to Fuck Your Life Up, a podcast about what happens when you blow up the life you had to build the one you actually want. Each week, we share updates from our own journeys, including flipping a house together, and have conversations with other life flippers about living without a blueprint and choosing freedom even when it's fucking scary. Well, this is episode 2 now, I guess. So, hey,
three, I think, because we had our little
3 if you count the intro.
Yeah.
So
we count everything here.
Yeah. If you're still with us, I guess you like the idea of flipping or fucking your life up. So welcome again. And I think we're going to get into Crystal's story, our other host extraordinaire. Just as a quick reminder, Crystal and I have known each other for about 15 years now. And I have seen her go through every season of life, I'd say at this point. Yeah. And so I know, Crystal, you started off as a biologist, right? You are a smarty pants. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I started out in high school and college pre-med, wanted to go to med school. And, I had kind of one of those dads who his dad was a neuroscientist. He was a neurosurgeon. And, he has a very traditional sense of what success is. And I happen to just love science and medicine. And to me, that was the ultimate job, to be a doctor. And it was my first, I wasn't a sports kid. I wasn't an art kid. I was into science. I was into it. And I was volunteering in hospitals and I was pre-med in college. And then I didn't get into med school. I applied and didn't.
Wow.
And it broke me, destroyed me. But luckily I had
how many did you apply to? Or is that how does that even work?
I applied to 12.
Okay.
And I had I just had a really low, I had an amazing application, but really low MCAT scores. And I'm not a test taker. And actually I had this amazing mentor who I did research with in college. And she gave me a really tough love talk. And she was like, Crystal, you're not a test taker. You have many other amazing skills. And she was like, you're going to get to med school and you're going to be taking tests all the time. And I'm worried it's going to be really tough for you. And she was like, you are an amazing research scientist. You should go get your PhD. And so that's what I did. And I got into my dream program at USC. And I loved it at first. I was doing science, real research, stem cell research in an amazing top lab with beyond smart people. And I was really good at it. But things started to bubble up, as they do. Yeah. That maybe I'm not as happy as I think I am.
The doubts, but I've put all this time and effort in, right? And I got to just keep trudging forward. And I know for me personally, I felt really fortunate that I was one of the few people that I went to, school with that knew what I wanted to do going in. I was like, I got this all figured out. My life's ahead of me. And I can imagine you probably felt kind of the same way, that you were down this trajectory, this path that was easy, natural, and it probably felt really uncomfortable to have those doubts. Yeah. Especially at such a young age where we don't always trust instincts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're 25 years old, you're still working so much stuff out, in your head.
Yeah.
And, I just started to think about my day-to-day, my day-to-day life. Was I doing what I wanted to do all day long, And I looked at the people around me and I was like, the people who are farther ahead in their careers, is that what I want my day-to-day to look like in the future? And the answer was no. It was just no, So I quit abruptly. I left in year 4.
What does quitting in year 4 look like? I mean, what do you have? Do you get a refund?
There's no refund. I talked to my program and they were like, you've done so much, here's a master's degree. And that was basically it. I just left.
So there was a master. That's a good parting gift.
I did. That was a good parting gift. Yes. I earned that. Yes. So I got a master's degree in cell and neurobiology, but, my training was really in human biology, disease, and stem cell research. And right away, I needed to have a job. And so I got a job as a nanny straight out. Got a job as a
That
nanny.
makes sense.
I was trying, that makes sense.
Just
That tracks.
a bigger grouping of cells in a child.
Yeah, I know
Just
you know
kind of development.
CPR, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to figure out like what do I really want to do, and I was applying for these jobs and like in nonprofits, and I don't know, I didn't know, I didn't know, and that was the first time in my life I didn't know what I was going to do, and I just knew I wanted to be successful, and I wanted to be happy, so I took this job because I needed money, and I fucking hated it, and I quit after 2 weeks.
Did the kids suck, or why?
No, it was for one really sweet 5-month-old baby, but we're all moms. So you know what it's like to be home with a 5-month-old baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was like, this is not the answer. Like, this is not what I was looking for. And so I left that. I'm not proud of this, to be clear. Like that sucked of me to leave these parents, in hindsight, like to leave these parents. Yeah. But I was just on this mission. Like I just wanted to be happy with my days and make money doing it. Mm-hmm. Which I guess we're all trying to figure out, right? Still to this day. Like,
I think that's the point, right?
That's the point. Yeah. So I ended up applying for a teaching job at an independent girls' school here in LA. And I thought, like, maybe this is it. And to me, like, teaching made more sense because it's like a huge amount of variety, a lot of feedback, a lot of input, a lot of social, like that's more my personality rather than like being in a lab with a pipette, like with my head down. That wasn't me. So I applied for it. I got the job. Somehow I had never taught anything in my life. But they hired me.
But you were at least taking that degree and putting it to use, which makes sense logically.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did that for 9 years, and I rose up and I got into administration there and, ended up sort of like climbing the ladder of education, and actually really loved it. And then,
and then
I started,
and then you got itchy feet again.
You know what? No, that's not what happened this time. What happened is I thought that that's what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Now, there's a through line that I haven't talked about, which is that I owned a wine company for like this whole time. I started it in grad school, and I did it a lot of the time that I was teaching too, because I now know in my heart I'm an entrepreneur. That's who I am. Like, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a teacher. Like, my real heart is that I'm an entrepreneur. And so what I really wanted was to work for myself. Like, I wasn't sure what it was going to look like, but I liked that. And that business like had success, but it wasn't, I was never able to make it my full-time job. So that was always in the back of my head. Like, I wanted to work for myself. And what happened was, but that wasn't panning out, and I liked my job. And then I had my first daughter. And literally like the day she was born, I was like, I am never leaving her. Like, I'm not going back to working full time. I'm going to be with her. So, so I quit. So I quit teaching. And what happened then was while I was on maternity leave, I started taking these like mommy and me fitness classes in the park where, you could bring the baby and do like a boot camp. It was called Baby Boot Camp. And I started talking to the owner and found out it's a franchise company. It was a national company. And the owner wanted to sell her franchise. And I was like, this is it. This is the answer. Like, I'm going to, this is my chance to be a real entrepreneur, to work for myself, to be with my daughter. Like this, I thought I had all the answers. Everything worked out.
I have a question. Did you have any examples of entrepreneurship in your family, your friends, anybody that you like had that example to kind of model after?
No.
Wow. That's amazing. And it goes to show like just putting yourself out there and like, continuing to network and be with people and socialize, like it presents opportunities. And if you're willing to hear them out, that's amazing.
But I got another question. All right. And this is getting a little bit personal and looking up the skirt though.
Yeah.
Financially.
Yeah.
All right. Like, were you lucky enough that your husband's job, for instance, could support you taking these chances and quitting? Because there are a lot of people out there that are like, I can't fuck it up because like I need 2 paychecks. So are you fortunate enough to be in a situation where a solo income is okay for a little bit of time?
Yeah.
And that there are savings to buy a franchise.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we're talking about that because that was major. So yes and no. Yes, in that like my husband was at a place in his career where he was making a lot of money, but not enough that like we could, at that point we hadn't bought a house. We wanted to buy a house. Like we weren't able to reach our financial goals at that point. But what I did was I looked at like what I was making as a teacher and what full-time childcare was going to cost.
Hey. Yeah.
And I subtracted that and I said, basically like the way it mathed out was like, all I need to make is $25,000 a year running this business, this babysitting business. And, I crunched the numbers. It cost $10,000 to buy. So
that's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why
was it so cheap? Fire sale.
Well, because we met in the park. So I did have to pay like a portion.
There's no overhead.
Yeah, there's almost no overhead. There's almost no overhead. You meet in the park and people, pay. So I knew like I can make that happen. Like I can do that. I've run other companies. Like I can make this happen. And of course, like there's pieces to it that, like, for example, like I was no longer like getting a lot of like the health benefits from my job. So then, we had to switch. So a lot of stuff changed, but I was so committed to like, I wanted to be with my daughter and I wanted to be working too. There was no world where I was going to quit and not have a job because that's not true to me. Like I wanted to still have something else, as we learned from being a full-time nanny. Like I couldn't do that, but I just knew I could do it. And then the pandemic happened. And, where we were, I was at the Beverly Hills, Roxbury Park in Beverly Hills. And Beverly Hills was like very serious. The way that this franchise worked is like you had to be, I couldn't just be anywhere. I had to be, in a specific locations. And Beverly Hills like shut everything down for like 2 years.
Yeah, they were very strict.
There was like caution tape on like picnic benches and stuff.
Yes.
Right. Swing sets. Don't touch the swings.
Yeah. Parks were closed. And also nobody wanted to be, working out with each other, bringing their kids because the kids are eating each other's snacks.
Vulnerable.
Yeah. So, but it was, at the same time we had moved to the Valley. We were like on the West Side. We'd moved to the Valley. I was pregnant and had my second child. So our whole life kind of changed. It all kind of changed all at once. It was like my business kind of got shut down because of the pandemic. We moved, so I wasn't as close to the park. I had a second child.
For those of you that aren't from LA, like Beverly Hills to the Valley is not that far, but for LA, it's far. It's maybe 4 or 5 miles. But it could be an hour. It could be an hour to get there. Yeah. And now you put your daughter in there to go there and do it. Yeah. It's not.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to load up two babies and drive 45 minutes to teach her.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't, the math wasn't mathing. And also I was starting to get the itch again. And the itch that I was starting to get was like, I think I'm ready for full-time work again. And I want to make money. Like,
okay, so can you describe what that itch really feels like? Has it felt the same each time you've done a flip on your life, or does it feel different because of the circumstances?
I think every time it's felt different. Like when I was in the lab, I got unhappy. I got to be unhappy. And then I was sort of searching for happiness, and like something more true to myself. And that, when I left teaching, there was another reason, and it was because I wanted to be with my daughter. I had this other motivation. I wasn't unhappy. I was very happy, but, and then the same thing, like when I decided I needed something more, I needed like my next step. I wasn't happy. It's just like there's something, I think we all feel this all the time. I'm just really in tune to it.
And where's the wine company? I'm sorry. Did you drink it all?
We drank it all. We drank it all. Man, that was a good time. That was a good time. That was so much fun. Yeah, and I think like that's kind of been a through line for me is like I want to have agency. Like this is what I know now that I
Mm-hmm.
figured out through all this. See, to the outside world, this all seems so random and also maybe like sketchy and like a little bit non-committal, right? What I know is I've been taking everything I've learned from all these experiences, and now like I have so much confidence in myself. Like I know I can do anything. Like I believe it. I
Mm-hmm.
know that like if I set my mind to it, I can figure it out. I can do it. I've done so many things at this point that now I just want to be like true to myself. I want to be in charge of my life. I want unlimited possibility to make money, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um
So your next move, you decided to get into risking it all, like as far as investing in real estate and
yeah.
being a real estate agent. So talk to us about how you landed on that.
Well, like I said, when we bought our house and moved to the valley, which is a very LA
Mhm.
thing to do, you know,
Yeah.
most of
With
us,
the
I, did
family.
we all did we
Yeah.
all do it? Did we all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yep.
didn't I loved living over in like West Hollywood amongst everything, but as soon as COVID hit, I was like, "Oh, I need
Bye.
space. Got to
You
go
need
to the
space.
valley."
You got to have, yes. So
Yeah.
the house that we bought was like a severely distressed property. And that was, I
Mhm.
guess, another instance when I was like, no problem. Like we could do that, you know. Sam has experience with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Our first house wasn't severely distressed, not like that.
yeah.
That still took some guts.
Yeah, ours was like very severely distressed, and just like the process of like of buying it and renovating it, I thought it was so interesting. And so basically, way back then, I said to my husband, like, my next career is going to be in house flipping. Like I knew that. So then when I started to get the itch again, I thought, like, what if I didn't yet know how I was going to get to that house flipping, but I thought, like, I
Mhm.
think I would like being a realtor. Like
Yeah.
I just think it like I think about all the skills that it takes makes a lot of sense for me. And that this I was nervous about. This one I was a little nervous about because I had this like uh, feeling of like I have a master's degree. Like all you have to do is be 18 and take a test to be a realtor. Like you don't have to be a genius.
Yeah, I was going to ask like what is the process like? Is
It's
there's a test?
very
It's 6
it's very
months or
it's very easy to get licensed. Yeah, basically from like the time it takes about 3 months of courses, and then you have to wait like maybe 2 months to take the exam. So within 5 months, you can probably get licensed.
is it
Now,
expensive?
no, no, anybody can do it. But there's statistics that I'm probably getting this wrong. We need a fact check, but there's statistics that, like 95% of people who get licensed never do a transaction. You know, and that like 100 like 95% of the these are it's something in this realm. Like 95% of the transactions are done by like 5% of the agents who are actually licensed.
Is that
So
Wow.
because the realtors then like you have to get hired at a company and
it's
they don't get a
easy to
company?
get hired at a company. It's very hard to make any money being a realtor, which I've like learned. So and then there's kind of these different paths you can take. Like you could go to like a Coldwell Banker and do their new agent training and learn the way they do it. Or you can go try and get on a team, and there's different types of teams. One team feeds you leads, but essentially, as a realtor, you only make money when you close a deal, when somebody closes escrow, and the whole way that you get these deals is through leads. So if you're not getting any leads, if you're not getting any clients, you're not closing any transactions, and then you're not making any money.
And there's
So
a certain amount of overhead to it too, right? From what I learned from doing my research in on it, that you'll have to expect there's always money kind of going out to pay for fees and licenses
yeah,
and MLS and all of that, right? Yeah.
yes, yeah. And then, wherever you are, if you're on a team, if you're not on a team, whatever,
Yeah.
you're giving a cut of your commissions to your brokerage. And if you're on a team that does, then you're giving a cut to your brokerage and your team. So, there's people out there who are only seeing 50% of their um, commissions, for example,
Yeah.
or less. So that's why it's very easy to get licensed. It's hard to actually be a very good agent. So I joined a team. I sort of like went on this search before he was even licensed. I went on this search to find a team, and I found a team that I love. They're like family to me, and they're wonderful. They're the most wonderful people. And I started learning. And so sort of while I was doing that, it took about, I was like about a year and a half in my career. And then I started to get the bug to like, let me figure out how do you flip a house? Cause that was always what I wanted, to do. So I spent, the whole next year trying to figure it out. Like, how do I flip a house? How do people do this? Taking courses, reading books, finding mentors, going to investor meetings. And so I spent this time trying to figure it out, and then I did it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. It sounds like your parents were probably really like encouraging of curiosity, maybe when you were a kid, right? It seems like you're naturally curious and confident that you'll figure stuff out just by doing the research. Would that be fair to say? Or how have you gotten that skill set up?
I don't know if like the curiosity was like a major value in my family, but I had a huge amount of independence at a young age. And, I'm not the kind of person like my parents, financially supported me. I had to be a grown up pretty early on in my life. And that just gave me a huge amount of self-confidence, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like
That
you've
makes
just
sense.
been in a safe environment and safe relationships to allow you to try those things too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a major through line of all this is like, I have a husband who just like also believes in me. And whenever
Mhm.
You hear that? Yeah, get yourself a husband, ladies.
well, I mean, thankfully he has a normal job. He's like a normal person, unlike us, like who, like we're not, but he's like get a job, regular paycheck, that's more of his style. So we always know we're going to be okay, but he also believes in me too. So when I say like, we're going to buy this house and it's a fixer upper, it's our first house, like, don't worry, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be done in 3 months. He's like, okay, or when I'm like, I'm gonna become a realtor and I'm gonna be good at it. And he just knows. He just, believes in that. So, I do have that huge amount of support. And all my friends.
That's the ultimate partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important. That's helpful.
So then tell us about how you found this flip house and that process and how that all kind of brought us together.
Yeah. Okay. So my first and only flip. So, I had
one but not done.
Right?
Right. So I had this friend. She's in our group, and she was interested in real estate investing too. So we were kind of learning this together, and we sort of learned this method. Neither of us had like almost any capital that we could dedicate to this process. So we started learning from the internet, basically, just like in general, just the internet, and also from, there's these meetings called FIBI, for investors by investors. I don't know if Sam, maybe you've heard of them. There's one in Pasadena.
I haven't.
And they're monthly like real estate investor meetings. And so we started learning about the different ways you can invest in real estate. Flipping is one of those, right? But there's all these other ways. Flipping was the most interesting to me because I'm very visual and aesthetic, and I'm interested in design, and I like that like start to finish process. Like that works for me.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the only thing you can do. So we started learning this process. I learned about this process of using other people's money to flip a house. I learned about hard money, and we can talk more about this, in future episodes as we track our flip. But I was talking about hard money, other people's money, looking for investors. So we knew we needed to find an investor. I started to do the math. There's all these, basically, like the way that you can make a safer investment in a flip is to make sure that it falls within these like parameters. It's called the 70% rule. And so I knew the math of my project, that I'm going to buy a house that was going to be for this much. I'm going to invest this much into, renovation, and we're going to sell for this much. I knew this math, and I knew I needed basically $300,000. Somebody to invest that much capital. So, I just started looking for investors, and basically an investor found me on Instagram. Like it was very
the traditional way that you find an investor.
yeah. And she had exactly $300,000 to invest, which is what we needed. So, so we said, okay, let's find a house. And so then we set out to finding a house. And from when I set out to flip a house to when I actually bought a house, it took a year. So what I mean is like finding the deal. I mean, again, I have other jobs. Yeah, I'm a mom, I'm a realtor. So like, I can't do this full time searching for deals. And there are a lot of people who do, but there's different methods. You can work with wholesalers, and that's another thing we can go into, but there's different methods. You can find them off market. You can find them on MLS. You can work with a wholesaler. And so the way that I found my first flip project was like a combination of all of those. A huge strike of luck, because the stars had to align in many, many ways for this, but I got lucky. I ended up getting this incredible mid-century post and beam house in Studio City in the hills. And it was like my dream flip. Like this house, I just looked at it and I knew it was going to be beautiful. Again, severely distressed. And, I called up my contractor, the one that did my house. And before I even bought it, like he's an investor too. So before I even bought it, like we knew, he was like, don't pay this much, not this much, and ended up getting it for that much. So, yeah, I just knew it was going to be great. And then I had to go through all the steps after that. Like once you get the property, that's when the real fun begins.
And I know it only took a short 8 months, I guess, to get the whole thing turned around, right? The whole deal?
The whole deal. Yeah. I bought it in December and I sold it in July of the next year. So 8 months.
Amazing.
Total. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, this process was not easy. Like it was stressful, especially at the end. So it took me, a little bit of time. It took me like a while to start to think about doing it again. And right around there is when Sam, reached out to me, was like, I'm thinking about real estate. I'm thinking about making a change. And so we started having conversations, about it.
Yeah. I think a huge part of that too is you were sending out your emails for your realty stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's something I've always been into. And it really just, snowballed into us kind of reconnecting and talking about it and figuring out how we could do it ourselves together. So I'm glad it all worked out. Here we are. Doing it, talking about it and making it happen.
Ready to jump into a new project.
Yeah. Yeah. So just one last question that, I keep thinking about with you in general, since you are kind of the experienced life flipper here. So, every time you flipped your life, has it felt the way you expected it to when you've come out of it? Did it scratch that itch, I guess? Because you get itchy again, sure. But initially, did it feel like how you expected it to feel when you started down the path?
Yes and no. Look, anytime you're starting something new without a blueprint, which is what we're all doing, there's going to be bad feelings, it's exciting. Like to me, that newness, that freshness of something new, like a whole new fresh start, outweighs the icky feelings of what the fuck did I do? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm bleeding money. I'm not making money yet, or this isn't what am I doing? That always creeps in. That always creeps in. For me, this fresh start feeling, I really like.
So it's more excitement versus the sheer anxiety and panic that the rest of us feel.
It's a little bit of both all the time. It's just hanging on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just have to be okay with that feeling.
Yeah.
You have to be okay. If you're going to flip your life, you have to be okay with that feeling. I don't know what I'm doing. Did I maybe make this mistake? Anticipate it, feel the feelings, and know that I just think about all the people in the world who've had success, took big swings, made big risks, didn't follow the safe path. And that's maybe the biggest skill that any of us can have, is like sitting in the discomfort of like, this isn't comfortable. This isn't, I don't have a roadmap for this. I'm alone in this potentially.
Mhm.
But I'm okay. Like, I know that this will pass.
Yeah.
Don't quit. Don't quit when you feel bad. It doesn't mean you're doing it something wrong. It means you're doing it right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you have to be kind of ready for that experience of, figuring it out as you go along and all of that. But I always like, when I talk about my situation, I think having the same job for 15 years sounds great and stable, but like, we are primates after all, and we seek novelty. And so I think a lot of people who aren't getting that in their day-to-day job might want to make a change to get that novelty. So I know I'm feeling that right now too. It doesn't feel like how I expected it to, but it's still exciting. So
Well, and there's going to be feelings if you're staying in what you're starting to get the itch, and you're in this job that you've had for 15 years or 9 years or 10 years, and you're starting to feel like this isn't really making me happy. Like, those are negative feelings too. And society kind of programs us to think like that's normal and that's okay. And we all, so many of us sit in those feelings, but are too afraid of the other feelings. The
yeah,
feeling of like, am I failing?
Well,
yeah,
because there is that risk of failure, though. I mean, I by no means want to be the glass half empty gal, but like the people that did take the big swings that you were talking about and have those success stories, we know about them because it's the success story. There are so many people that have taken big swings and
hmm
there is no success story and they're
Yeah.
living under the freeway.
Yeah.
yes,
But
but
I
you don't
think,
hear about those
Packing their
people.
cardboard boxes each week.
but yeah, I have two thoughts on that. One is, you, if you're setting yourself up, you're taking calculated risks, right?
Yeah,
So it's not like, there's a lot of thought that has to go into this, And Sam, you thought about leaving your job for a while, and you did a lot of research
yeah,
behind the scenes, right?
yeah. I did.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, it was to make sure that I'd covered all my bases
Yeah.
before making the change, right? That I wouldn't have regret or like could have done it differently. And I'm glad I took that time for sure.
yeah, and also you don't have, another version of taking calculated risk. One is like the way Sam does it, which is like really thinking through everything. But the other one is doing
Maybe
like
too much.
maybe going half in, like,
Yeah.
can you go
hmm
down to part-time at your job
hmm
while you're building this? Like, like, can you test the waters a little bit?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's that world as well. But
Yeah.
also the second thing that I'll challenge you, my love Katie, is like, okay, like I had a wine business that didn't like make me
Yeah,
millions.
I'm still really stuck on this wine business. I'm
See,
like,
I
what
know.
are we doing? What are we wasting our time with houses when there's wine to be had?
Right? I know, I know. Well, we can have wine at the house. Let's make
Okay,
a
all right,
beautiful
deal.
house
I'm
and
back in.
then celebrate with wine. Um, but that one didn't work out. But that to me was not a failure. You know,
hmm
it served me in so many ways. I learned so much from running that business. So to me, it wasn't a failure. And the same thing, like buying Baby Boot Camp, I didn't retire on that, and I didn't make millions on
hmm
that. I scraped by, but I didn't see that as a failure in any way, because I got to do what I wanted to do, which was
hmm
work, own a business, be home with my daughter. You know,
Right. Check the boxes.
they check the boxes. And so I think sometimes like we have to be okay with like something can be the very perfect thing for even a short amount of time, and it
Yeah.
could lead
Yeah.
from there.
It's seasons of life. That's the other thing that I keep telling people, like, listen to the surrounding environment. If it's not working for you, like, I think I do believe, as much as I'm not the woo woo one, there's a certain energy that is put into fighting against something that's just not working, and it can just become frustrating. And why keep pushing on something that's just not working? There could be an easier path down the way. It may not be easier in practice, but like the energy of the universe is sending you that direction, and to just listen to it. So, well, I think that's all we have time for this episode for. But on our next episode, we're going to be hearing all about our wonderful Katie Adams over here, who, has not had as free for all of an experience in flipping her life. She got flipped on her own, or somebody else flipped her, or the universe flipped her, maybe is the best way to say that. So I think we're going to hear from her on the next episode about what that experience was like for her. But follow us on F Your Life Up podcast on all social media platforms, and send us any questions to fyourlifeuppod@gmail.com. We'll see you on the next one.